probably one of the top 10 comic book movies, I think.
Spider-Man 2 was my favorite Spider-Man of the Spider-Man series.
Spider-Man 2 was amazing. More amazing, in fact, than all of the other amazing Spider-Man movies.
You didn't have to deal with the origin story with Spider-Man. You didn't have to go through that whole rigmarole with, Tobey Maguire or anything like that. But you had, I think it was David Molina or something like that. The guy who was Doc Ock was awesome in that movie. Absolutely perfect. And always a big fan of Kirsten Dunst, too.
No, wait, Spider-Man 2. Well, the cool thing about the Spider-Man movies is they had Bruce Campbell in them. Besides that, I liked his little cameos he did.
I like the scene where he's stopping the train and everybody's carrying his body and everybody's crying over poor Spider-Man. I think it's probably the end of Sam Raimi's reign on Spider-Man. I think it's the last good Spider-Man idea he had, and then the third one he just cobbled together. But it was good. I enjoyed it.
Spider-Man 2 was sweet. I think out of all the series so far, Dr. Octopus was the best villain.
Doc Ock, solid villain.
I like tentacles, so yeah, I'm a fan of Spider-Man too.
Doc Ock was phenomenal.
I like that they kind of balanced the line between genius and psychopath with him, because he had these arms telling him what to do, but he was also, this good-natured guy just trying to supply energy for people at the end.
The way they portrayed him in that movie was the greatest thing ever. The fact that they had the digitally animated arms that moved so realistically. I would have swore it was like it was a prop, like a puppeted prop or a mechanical prop. It was just so good.
I like the tentacle effect that they did when they took, the leftovers from the Matrix and then they put it on the back of What's-His-Face's back and then used it that way.
It broke my heart a little because Peter Parker and Dr. Octavius could have been such great friends, but then Doc Ock was obsessed and super motivated to do stuff, and road to good intentions, road to hell is paved with good intentions and stuff, and they could have played catch and stuff, and Peter's really missing the Uncle Ben, and I really felt that there was a relationship that was glossed over that really could have happened, but it had to be about them fighting and big mechanical arms unscrewing babies' heads and whatever. It's dumb.
That's probably one of the best DC comic books, I think, of all time. I mean, you read that comic book and it'll infinitely, you will get a huge amount of respect for Deathstroke, a lot more respect for Batman, and a lot more respect for the Elongated Man and all the madness he has to put up with.
Identity Crisis was I think, one of the most human DC stories ever, and it was something that DC's always they're always criticized for not being human, but here was one where these powerful heroes are really struggling with an event, and if you haven't read it, you should. I won't spoil anything, but it was you saw how human some of these characters were, especially Batman, which was pretty interesting. And you see how human he is even in Infinite Crisis when he has his famous panic attack scene. It's my favorite scene ever. Batman just clutches his chest and he can't understand because Brother Eye's out of control and he had something to do with it. So he's like, that's the best ever.
Crazy girlfriends. That's what Identity Crisis is all about. Crazy girlfriends.
And of course they totally effed a line of pooches with Final Crisis when editors were punching each other in the face, and there were endings of certain titles spilling into other titles, and God knows, Grant Morrison needs help sometimes. There was none of that here, unfortunately, as brilliant as the man is. But I like that one, the Identity Crisis. It had nothing to do with anybody not remembering who they were, so title's a little misleading. It's very good. You should check it out.
That set the tone for the Marvel Universe for years.
Oh, it was about time they got rid of those guys, because they were just so familiar with each other and so boring. And 95% of those people have to be out of their freaking heads, out of their minds crazy. So it's amazing they got along for as long as they did.
You really get a feel for how fragile of an institution the Avengers actually are.
So it was about time that one of them, the one who was probably closer to a psychological break than the rest of them, finally just lost her mind. Of course, she just happens to be the one who's the most powerful. So, of course, when she freaks out, it's, well, obviously reality changes and things like that. But it was good because I could not believe that these kinds of crazy people could get along together for as long as they did. It was time that one snapped.
He takes out Tony Stark, brings back his drinking problem, even though he hasn't had a drink in years. She blows up the mansion.
Pretty much just imagining in reality horrible, devastating events that shook everybody to their core and restarted restarted the book and stuff. So that was glad that they finally, that was more realistic to me.
So to have their entire organization kind of undermined by Scarlet Witch was pretty cool.